Hi, my name is Francois, and this is Super Teachers Unite, the show dedicated to finding out what it takes to teach like a superhero. Now, all of us had that favorite teacher when we were at school, and they were very influential early in our lives, and we remember them fondly. Now, in every episode, I'll interview business leaders and other super teachers so that they can share the stories about the super teachers in their lives that were so influential on the successes that they made of their lives. Now, they'll share stories from the classroom, but as well as the boardroom. In every episode, our guest stories will assist us in finding out, especially if you're a super teacher, what it is going to take to improve your practice. And if you're a business leader, how will you improve your people, your processes, and your profits? Now, if you need me to assist you in finding out how you can teach like a superhero, check out our website at staysuper.co.za. We focus so much on our weaknesses instead of focusing on our strengths. I truly believe that when we focus on our strengths, we can achieve a lot more when we collaborate with other people and they can utilize their strengths. Now, this resonates a lot with the message that Brittany McCormick shares. Now, Brittany suffers from cerebral palsy, and she's a motivational speaker that wants people to focus on the ability and not the disability. She is extremely inspirational, and you'll find out through the interview everything that she's done. But I mean, suffering from cerebral palsy and still being able to run a race. I mean, that's absolutely awe-inspiring. So in today's episode, she shares with us what teachers can do to make their classroom more inclusive, but more importantly, how teachers can start seeing the ability instead of the disability. This is one of my favorite episodes, and I really enjoyed this conversation with Brittany McCormick. So, Brittany, the audience now has an introduction from you. They know a little bit about you, but I know that teachers are going to stalk you on the other social media platforms. Where would you say is the best place for teachers to go and find out more about you?
I would honestly say Facebook and Instagram. I'm very new to LinkedIn, but if they want to follow me there, they can as well.
Excellent.
Sorry to interrupt you. My Instagram is slightly different to Facebook and LinkedIn. With Instagram, it's Brittany Jade and then McCormick without the K. But with LinkedIn, it's just Brittany McCormick, and Facebook, it's just Brittany McCormick.
Excellent. What we'll do is we'll include the links when we share the episode on the social media platforms. We'll be sure to tag you so that anybody that wants more information about Brittany, they can find it out there. Now, Brittany, with all of the other guests, I start off by asking them their questions about their teachers. But before we get there, I want to explicitly find out from you, because you're suffering from cerebral palsy, to what extent is that influencing your life? On a physical level, because on a podcast and an interview type like this, I think it's extremely difficult for people to get the context of your disability. So maybe share with us the severity of your cerebral palsy, and then we can take the interview from there.
With pleasure. I was born with cerebral palsy quadriplegia of high muscle tone. What it is it doesn't progress, and it doesn't get worse. It stabilizes, and it happens when a woman is pregnant or just after birth. It either happens if the child has seized in the mother's womb, or if there's water on the brain, or of anything of that severity. For me, it's because of my underdevelopment. I was born at 25 weeks premature, and doctors didn't even know if I would live. So for me, it's because of, I think it's because of that. I don't really know to what extent, but from what I understand and what has been explained to me, that's how it happened for me. They only diagnosed me when I was 1 or 2 years old. They managed to find out, hold on, something wrong with Brittany. Her arm is bent inwards, somewhat like this. So they took me to the doctors, and then they said, okay, well, then there was a doctor who diagnosed me with cerebral palsy. I have So there's two types from what I understand. There's low tone and high muscle tone. High muscle tone is when your body stiffens up and your body spasms constantly all the time. Low muscle tone is when the child or adult is floppy and has no strength and anything of that understanding. It does not affect your brain, but if there's been water on the brain or of any extent to where it gets into the brain, then slight brain damage can be done. But yeah, for me, there's no mental effect there. It's just physical.
Well, no more mental effects than the rest of the population, because all of us have got something wrong with us. That's for sure.
Yes, yeah, definitely.
Okay, so from a movement perspective, Brittany, I know some people who suffer from cerebral palsy are bound to a wheelchair. Is this the case for you, or how's mobility for you?
I do use a wheelchair, but only when I go out. So at home, I'm on my all fours, on my hands and knees. I have just learned to walk on a treadmill over a year and a half ago. Just learned to walk on a treadmill, but I can walk with assistance. So if somebody holds me from the front, I can walk. They will obviously the other side, the person would have to walk backwards. But for me, I walk towards them, if that makes sense. Okay. My mobility is pretty good. I do normal things on a daily basis. I can move pretty quickly. You'd be surprised if you see me move around. Yeah, but I do normal things. It's certain things I struggle with, but obviously getting dressed and all of that, I was taught from the age of 4 years old. So, yeah.
Okay, great. I think that's great context that sets the scene for your life story. And we're going to speak a lot about, especially the motivational talking or motivational speeches that you do, public speaking that you do at various companies, at schools, and that's a major part of your life's dream. But people need to understand, first of all, where you come from. And I know that you've had a lot of influences from teachers in your life. And as we do on the Super Teachers Unite show, we've asked everybody, like, who were those teachers that had an influence on your life?
To be honest with you, I had a lot of negative influences from teachers. But I did have one teacher who saw me for me and pushed me to just go forward and make this happen. I still speak to her to this day. She's a very, very big part of my life. But what I have been through negatively from teachers is actually disgusting. I've been sworn at. I've had a book thrown at my back. I've been told I'm not going to be successful at any point in my life. I've been told things that you don't want to be told. And I feel that the reason why I'm going into motivational speaking is because of that. Is to show that, yes, you can be different, but see the child's ability, see the woman's ability, not the disability. It might take them 6 years, 2 years, 1 year, but at least they can get there, and even if it's something small, at least let them try, at least allow them to build their purpose. Don't break them down, build them up.
Absolutely. Now, I know that there's been a lot of negative influences, and I'm very curious to find out about your schooling years. So you don't have to mention any names or any institutions that you were at, but the school that you went to, was it? I'm guessing it wasn't a mainstream school, or was it one of the LSEN schools? What was the type of school or schooling that you were exposed to?
So I went to a normal school for a while. And then my mom got called into the principal's office, and he said to my mom, listen, your daughter needs to leave the school because I don't know how I'm going to explain to other parents what is wrong with your daughter. And from there, we left. And then actually a lady that worked at that school started up a special needs school. And it went well for a few years, 1 or 2 years. And then later on, I started getting bullied from teachers and students. Obviously, I'm not blaming the students because they're mentally and physically disabled. They don't know what they're doing. They don't understand. But for a teacher, that's scary. For me, it was hard because I was constantly told, "Oh, look at you, you're stupid. Oh, look at you, you're thick. You're not worth it. You're an idiot." So I was told things that are just, it's scary. And for me, I went from that school to another special needs school, and it didn't work out there. I was getting bullied there as well, to the point where I didn't actually want to even be there anymore. So I left, and then I started homeschool. And then because of my disability, and I wasn't clever enough to be in a normal school, and I wasn't underdeveloped, way far behind enough to be able to go to a disabled school. So I was in between. I sat the fence. That's what we call it, sitting the fence. And I started with an online, with a at-home schooling, and I did grade 5 at the age of 14 years old. At the age of 15, 14 years old, I was doing grade 5. That wasn't working, so we pushed me through to grade 10, and that wasn't working. I tried the GED, and they gave me problems. It was just a communication issue, and we just walked away, and we realized that my schooling was not happening, and it was not working the way we wanted it to. So we moved away from that. And so I actually have no education. I have nothing. And the reason why I speak so well, and the reason why I read so well, is because I've been in adult company conversations and chats, and I read a lot of books, biographies. I read a lot of biographies. And so for me, and then we decided I need to follow my calling, which we believed is motivational speaking, because I had so much to offer, and I touched so many lives just by meeting them.
And that's truly the power of this. I think the fact that you're mentioning that you just said that you don't have any education. Now, I'm going to push back on that, because you might not have any formal qualifications from a school, but that doesn't mean you don't have education. I mean, you've been brought up in the school of life, and your experience, there's so much that people can learn from what you've gone through. Now, I want to come back to this super teacher of yours. As you said, like, you had a lot of negative influences. I think there's a lot of kids and people who are going to relate with that at some level, whether they've had a disability or not. The fact being that you get teachers who may not be the best fit for the profession, that like go out of their way to break down people. But at least you said you had that one individual that really made an impact on you in a positive way. I'd love for you to tell me about that teacher.
So this teacher, she's the most beautiful woman on the planet. She's really a miracle. She has a way of connecting with the children. She has a way of speaking to them as if they have value. She makes you feel as though you can conquer the world. She listens. She values what you say. She learns from you. You're not just learning from her. And she always pushed me to do what I love to do. She always told me, "You can do this. I'm proud of you. I love you. You've got this." She would literally every day tell me she loves me. I needed that because I got it every day from my family, my parents, because they love me till the end of the world. But I needed that one person, and besides my family, to say to me, "You've got this. I'm proud of you." And she would always push me to achieve the small things. It wasn't for her. It wasn't about the big milestones. It was the small things that counted for her. So she taught me how to read. She taught me how to do basic numbers, and I'm talking very basic numbers, practically just how to count money, and how to write essays and how to do the basics. She also taught me how to cook, slight little things, but she taught me how to cook. She taught me how to do the important things. And she taught me how to value conversation with adults, and how to what to pick up and what not to. Also, with the help of my family, I sat in conversations with them as well. So I've always been. People always say to me, Brittany, you're wise beyond your years, because the vocabulary I have will scare every 23-year-old out there, because it's actually scary. How I can actually hold a conversation. And she taught me how to be comfortable in the space of a person that has and does not have a disability, and how to explain your disability without having them feel like, oh my goodness, I'm scared to ask this, So she taught me so much about life. She taught me a lot about life, and that's irreplaceable.
I agree with you. That's that education that you needed, that individualized education and socialization that this teacher assisted you in achieving. And what I'm hearing and what I know from your motivational speaking and from the keynote talks that you give is this notion of seeing the ability and not the disability is exactly in what this teacher did. Is that where in a whole sea of other people that discouraged you, didn't see value, this individual saw value in you and encouraged the parts of you that are able. Just teaching you like cooking as a skill. I mean, that a lot of other people take for granted. This is something that a teacher saw. I can focus on the ability and not on the disability.
Yes, yeah. And it wasn't great stuff, just basic things like toasts and sandwiches and, and 2-minute noodles, sort of those sort of things, pies and all that, just to kind of give us a sense of, okay, we're grown up now, we're able to do this, let's do it, Yeah. And she took those group of kids and she said, let's do this, you might not be able to speak well, but let's see what you can cook, So we learned how to make desserts and how to make sandwiches and pies and chicken and rice and small things,
Yeah, absolutely amazing from this individual, and that gives a sense of value to what you do. And one thing that you also mentioned here is the conversation, the adult conversation, being able to carry a conversation. I think that's very difficult for people who do not spend a lot of time with people with disabilities, is that because it's so strange, they just rather like, I'd much rather ignore this person. It's like, this person isn't a full human, so I'd not give them that attention. And I think that perception is changed. And I know, Brittany, the two of us have been spending a lot of time together in a program that we're doing together. And I mean, I personally, when I interact with you, I don't even think about the cerebral palsy. That's not the case whatsoever. I'm interested in your story, and that's only because you can articulate it so well. So that skill serves you extremely, extremely well.
Yes, and that's where the adult conversation plays a big part in my role as a keynote speaker, because I read quite slowly, so I talk most of the time. A lot of the time, as you know, I don't like to keep quiet, but for me, being that voice is adds so much value and to somebody else with a disability. Because to be honest, I don't care whether you can talk or you can't talk, but you must find a way to have your voice. You must find a way to find your purpose, find your ability, find your belief, and find your courage. Because my parents will tell you, and I will tell you, you're not an invalid. You're capable. Stop seeing your disability and start seeing your ability. Stop feeling sorry for yourself. Pick up your problems and carry it and grow. Make your life a purpose. Make it a purpose.
Yeah. And I think that ties in very well with some of the messaging that I'm giving out, is that a lot of people are so focused on their weaknesses. They try and identify their weaknesses and spend so much time on their weaknesses, when their strengths, when the things that they are able to do should be amplified. And I think this is the lesson I'm taking from the teacher that you're speaking of is, once again, identify your strengths, identify the abilities you have, develop them. And then the second step, surround you with what I call the Avenger effect. Surround yourself with the rest of the superheroes in your life that's going to assist you with your weaknesses, but like complementing each other in the teamwork that you do.
Yes, definitely. Yes. And it's my family has been my main pillars of strength. But God is first, then my family, and then my career. Yeah, but it's for me. It's just having those people around you to say, you know what, Britt, it's hard, but we love you, we support you. Let's do this. You know, I did a park walk over a year ago, and I did it for cerebral palsy awareness, and people were so shocked that I walked 2.5 kilometers. With assistance, I walked 2.5 kilometers. I walked a trail run. I was supposed to do the 5K, but due to circumstances, I didn't. But I did the 2.5. And people were just like, Brittany, how? And I said, courage. Courage.
It's making that decision that you want to do it. I think that's like one of the first steps, is like gaining that courage and like, you know what, if I can at least with assistance put one foot in front of the other, I'm going to do that for 2.5 kilometers, because if my mind is set to do it, here I am. I'm somebody that's struggling to walk like on my own. Okay, now I'm going to show you that with a collaboration with other people, I can make this happen because I made the decision to make this happen.
Yes, and then as of last year, I started walking on it. Last year or the year before, I started walking on a treadmill. And then it went into the pandemic. And then I said to my family, no, I want a challenge. My dad said, well, okay, well, I'll try. I don't know what we could find, but let's make this happen. Then we found Justice League. Now, Justice League is an organization that when you book for the race, you have the 2.5K, the 10K, and there's the 2.5K, the 5K, and the 10K. And then that money goes to an organization that feeds the homeless. They found my story and they got hold of a family member of mine and said, listen, can you give me this lady's number? Because we want to get in touch with her. They messaged me, they asked me, can I please be in an article? They asked me for a live interview. I gave them a live interview. They, on the spot, they said to me, listen, we want you to be Woman of the Month for our organization. So I went ahead and I was the Woman of the Month for them. Then I raced 2.5 kilometers or 3.2 Ks for them, and I did that in about 2 hours. And then straight after that, I continued with all the races, and I just became almost like the Woman of the Year for them. So that's what so it's gotten me that far.
And I like the name of the organization already, as it fits in with the superhero theme. But I mean, Britt, you're an absolute superhero and inspiration. And I mean, I think that's why it ties in so well with your choice of going into motivational speaking and keynote speaking, public speaking specifically. That when I find myself in the gym struggling and I don't want to continue, I have this constant image of Brittany in my mind because I saw a video of you on a treadmill, and I'm like, Brittany wouldn't give up here. So I'm going to I can find that second step. I can find that first, like the like just getting enough breath to continue. And that is such an inspiration to, to myself and to others who viewed the video. But I think within the community of other people who suffer from cerebral palsy, that should also be a massive inspiration. How are you linked with the community of other people who are suffering from cerebral palsy, or are there ways for people to connect with you in a community?
I'm not really connected with the community with cerebral palsy. I just spread awareness. So I take a photo, take a video, and I just post it on my social media, and it just that's how I spread awareness. I'm not very much into getting involved with communities. I'm very private, so keep myself to myself, sort of thing. But yeah, I just post videos and
But
just
as you said,
yeah,
that this is how you found your voice, and through. And I
yeah,
know it's early in your journey, and I think this is what I'm foreseeing happening on your journey, is that as you start posting the online content, you're going to have a lot of people interested in your way of thinking, and then there will be a community that's going to surround around this. So I'm glad we've got your social media details, and I'm definitely encouraging people to become part of Brittany's community. And I know you say that you're a private person, and I get that from a lot of the people that I work with. But that you've decided to speak up about cerebral palsy, to speak out about abilities
eh,
and seeing the ability and not the disability. And I think that's going to
yeah.
resonate with so many people. But Brittany, from a teacher's perspective, if you were to speak to a teacher and maybe give them advice on dealing with, let's say, on the one hand, dealing with learners who have got special educational needs, but even just to kids in general, what would you want to say to teachers in working with kids?
There's a few things, so I'm going to break it down for you.
Hmm.
First one is listen carefully. Don't rush the child. Don't see the child's mistakes. See their ability. Understand that yes, they may take very long to learn something, but they can still learn. You know, be soft, be kind, be loving, and be willing. And the second thing is don't don't put them down. Lift them up. If they say to you, I don't understand this, so you know what? I'll sit with you, I'll teach you, I'll show you in the way that they understand. Take the time to get to know the student. Don't get to know, don't just get to know the class. Get to
Hmm.
know the individual. Because the moment you get to know that individual, that's it. You've changed the way they feel about education. You changed the way they feel about going to school. I used to dislike going to school so much because of what I went through. I used to at times lie in bed at night and cry because I didn't like it. And I think for me, the biggest thing is be that person that that changes the child's perspective.
Hmm.
Take the time. Take the time.
Yeah, that's so valuable. And in your message of ability versus disability, whether it is a mainstream child or a learner with special educational needs, like focusing on their abilities once again, determining
Yeah.
what it is that makes them tick, what they are interested in, because you're going to win over people in that way a lot easier than if you're going to focus on their weaknesses or their disabilities. Like finding the thing that they're emotional about, finding the thing that really like gets them going, focusing on that will give you the breakthrough you need.
Focusing on their purpose.
Mhm.
Their purpose. That's it. That's all it is. Focusing on their purpose.
So, Brittany, what is some of the things that you find irritating when you find out that people are dealing with you, like, and they realize, okay, this person has got a disability. What are some of the pet peeves or the irritating behaviors or habits of people when they interact with you that you wish people would just stop doing?
Well, firstly, okay, this is gonna sound horrible, but you know when you greet somebody and you shake their hand and you can see, oh, she's different. Let me pull my hand back. Let me not shake her hand and let me just step back. No, don't do that.
Yeah. So
Ask the person, can you shake, can you physically shake hands? You know, when you stand, don't stand up. Sit down. And like I said, take your time to listen to what I have to say.
yeah, I mean, there's probably
Because they
nothing more.
interrupt a lot.
Sorry. one of the things that is extremely irritating, somebody puts out their hand and then you're in the middle of the shake and they're like, and you like, so
Exactly.
like that's awkward, man. That's like totally awkward.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
don't also just assume that you can just go on and touch people. I mean, in the last year has taught us a lot. Like maybe that little irritation for you might disappear thanks to COVID. Now that people are not touching each other anymore, so maybe like. But I think that's like a sign of people not interacting with people with disabilities often. Like they're it's a strange environment for them. They're not comfortable with the environment, so they don't know how to act. So what I hear from you is like, ask. Like it's okay to ask what the interaction.
Okay. And also, not only that, it's people think you can't have a social life. So you can't go out for dinner, you can't have a drink, you can't do this. Bull, you can definitely do it. Just you need somebody with you to get you in and out of the car and doing certain things. And also, when you're having conversations with people, don't use complex words, especially people with disabilities. If they're not used to big, bold words, don't use them. Simplify, but do not speak down. Do not treat the woman or teenager or child like they're a baby, because they are not. I'm a grown woman and I still get spoken to. I'm 24 years old. I still get spoken to like I'm a child. When somebody wants to offer me a drink, they don't ask me, they ask my parents. And that's what I'm trying to say. Come to me and say, do you want a glass of water? Do you want a Coke? You know, ask. And don't be scared to hear what they have to say, because what they have to say can be of value to your life.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the one thing that the two of us, especially in the conversations we have offline, is like I don't see the disability. I mean, it's such a conversation between adults. And it's great conversation, and that's why I decided to invite you on the podcast, because I believe there's a strong message to be told here. But do not patronize people. I know I've got another friend who suffers from dwarfism, and when people speak to him, they actually go down on like their knees just to make eye contact and speak to him, and then they also start using the Afrikaans is verklein die verkleiningsvorm. Now my yeah, man, it's like like
yeah.
Don't you just want to sit down over years, like, and they speak down like as if it's an infant? I mean, that's probably one of the biggest insults that you can, is like give an adult an insult like that. Like, speak to me like you would to your other friends. But I like what you said in like, don't use over complicated language. And I think there's a lot of your other friends that would also just go like, yeah, like, don't be a douche, like speak normally, man. Just use simple language. Well, Britt, we had such a challenge with the technology, but luckily we could make a plan and get you back on a cell phone. But first of all, thank you so much for spending time with me today and sharing your experience. And then more importantly, like sharing what you think teachers can do when they work with kids. I think that's extremely, extremely valuable. And what I'm predicting here is that you're going to do a lot of talks at schools, because the message that you are giving is so relevant. If teachers or schools would like to get in contact with you in order to book you for the talks, how do they do that?
Well, they can get hold of me on my social media, on Facebook Messenger and Instagram, as well as they can also email me at brittany.mccormick@hotmail.com, and I'll get back to them as soon as I can. Yeah, that's about it.
We'll also include that when we send out the episode, so that if people would like to get you to come speak at their events, they'll be able to do that. Brittany, from my side, thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you very much for having me. It was a blessing and a huge opportunity to be here. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Britt. You must have an amazing day, and I want you to stay super.
Yes, of course, always.
Well, that's it for today's show. I hope that you found value and that your classroom or your boardroom is now a better place to work at. Please go check out the website staysuper.co.za to find out how my keynotes, workshops, or mastermind can assist you in teaching like a superhero. Until I see you in person or chat with you online, stay super.